Major Kim Sora felt the familiar weight of her flight suit as she stepped off the transport shuttle. The metal deck of forward operating base Titan rang under her boots. Round her, the massive hangar buzzed with activity. Human technicians worked alongside strange alien creatures she had only seen in briefings. The air smelled of fuel and ozone. Massive ships hung from the ceiling like sleeping giants. Some were human designs she recognized. Others looked like nothing from Earth. Their hulls curved in impossible ways, covered in patterns that hurt to look at. Captain Lee Min-ho approached with quick steps. His uniform was crisp despite the heat of the hangar. Major Kim, welcome to FOB Titan. He gave her a sharp salute. Your reputation precedes you, ma'am. Sora returned the salute. Thank you, Captain. How long until I can see my bird? Your F-22 is in Hangar Bay 7, ma'am. But first, Colonel Hon wants to see you in the command center. They walked through corridors filled with beings from across the galaxy. Sora had studied the Alliance species during her flight to Nova Prime, but seeing them in person was different. The Nexus looked like giant mantises walking on two legs. Their compound eyes tracked movement constantly. The lumini were harder to spot. They appeared as shimmering columns of light that moved through the air. How long have you been stationed here? Sora asked. 8 months, Mom. It takes time to get used to working with so many different species. They reached a main corridor where the ceiling stretched high above. Windows showed the red landscape of Nova Prime beyond the base walls. In the distance, storm clouds gathered round the planet's second moon. The Valerians run most of the flight operations. Min-ho continued. They've been fighting the Void Swarm longer than anyone. A group of tall figures emerged from a side passage. Sora had seen images of Valerians in her briefings, but the reality was more striking. They stood nearly 7 feet tall. Their pale blue skin seemed to glow under the corridor lights. Each wore armor that looked grown rather than built. The metal flowed round their bodies like liquid. The lead Valerian stepped directly into their path. His armor bore more decorations than the others. General rank markers covered his chest in patterns that moved when Sora looked at them. What is this? The Valerian's voice carried clearly down the corridor. Other beings stopped to watch. Why does this primitive Earth female wear warrior markings? His subordinates made sounds that might have been laughter. Their crystalline eyes reflected the light in sharp angles. One pointed toward a passage leading deeper into the base. Perhaps she is lost. General Catherine. It said, the support kitchens are in the lower levels. Sora felt heat rise in her cheeks. Round them, conversation stopped. Humans and aliens alike turned to watch the confrontation. She had faced prejudice before, but never so publicly, never in front of species that might judge all of humanity by this moment. Captain Min-ho stepped forward. General, this is Major Kim Sora. She's here for a flight assignment. Catherine's attention shifted to Sora. His eyes moved over her uniform, pausing at the pilot wings on her chest. The wings were small pieces of metal, but they represented years of training, countless hours in the air, missions that had saved lives. Major Kim Sora, reporting for flight duty, sir. She kept her voice steady despite the anger building inside. Her flight duty. Catherine's laugh sounded like breaking glass. The sound echoed off the corridor walls. Remove those pilot wings immediately. The corridor fell completely silent. Even the constant hum of the base's systems seemed to quiet. Sora could hear her own heartbeat in her ears, sir. She had heard him clearly, but couldn't believe what he was asking. You heard me. Primitive, a female serve food. Not in combat. Your species barely crawled out of their caves. Catherine gestured toward the kitchen passage. Find where you belong. One of his subordinates stepped closer. General, perhaps we should report this to command. The humans seem confused about proper roles. No need, Catherine replied. This one can learn. Remove the wings and report to food service. We have a war to fight, not games to play with inferior species. Sora's hands moved instinctively to her pilot wings. She had earned them through the hardest training program on Earth. They represented everything she had worked for since childhood. The first time she had touched the controls of an aircraft, she had known this was her purpose. I am a pilot, she said quietly. These wings stay where they are. Catherine's expression changed. His eyes narrowed to bright slits. Then you will learn respect the hard way. The Valerian general turned and walked away. His subordinates followed, but not before giving Sora looks that promised future trouble. The corridor slowly returned to normal activity, but she could feel eyes watching her from every direction. Captain Minho touched her shoulder gently. Ma'am, we should continue to the command center. Sora nodded, but her mind was already working. She had come to Nova Prime to fight the Void Swarm. Instead, she had found a different kind of enemy, one that wore the uniform of an ally. The officers' mess hall buzzed with angry voices. Lieutenant Park Geo sat at a corner table with 5 other human pilots. His fork scraped against the metal tray as he pushed round the processed food that passed for dinner on Nova Prime. I still can't believe it, Geo said for the 3rd time. They actually told Major Kim to remove her wings. Sergeant Choi Yuna gripped her coffee cup so hard her knuckles went white. 3 tours of duty, 47 confirmed kills against the Void Swarm. They want her serving food in the kitchen. Captain Nanjun leaned forward across the table. The Major flew cover for my transport last year over Kepler Station. Saved 200 Marines when the swarm broke through our lines. The Valerians don't care about our record, said Lieutenant Sonmir. They think their Starfire fighters make them gods of space combat. Other conversations in the mess hall had stopped. Human personnel at nearby tables listened to every word. News traveled fast on a military base, especially bad news. By now, everyone knew what had happened in the corridor. What did Colonel Han say when he heard? Asked Corporal Kim Tai-young. Nothing yet. Jiho replied, but his face went red as Nova Prime's sky when Captain Minho told him. Yuna slammed her cup down on the table. The sound echoed through the mess hall. The Valerians think they're the galaxy's greatest pilots because of their fancy technology. But I've seen their combat records. They win by overwhelming the enemy, with superior numbers and equipment. While we make every shot count, added Jun Ho, human pilots have the highest efficiency ratings in the Coalition. At other tables, Elian Coalition members ate their own specialized meals. The Nexus consumed a thick paste that smelled like copper. The Lumini absorbed energy directly from charging stations built into their tables. Most ignored the human discussion, but a few watched with interest. 2 hours later, an announcement echoed through the base communication system. All personnel were to report to the main briefing hall immediately. No exceptions. The briefing hall was the largest space on the base. Rows of seats faced a raised platform where commanding officers gave mission briefings. Tonight, representatives from every Coalition species filled the room. The air was thick with tension and the mixed atmosphere different species required. To breathe, General Keffin stood at the center of the platform. His blue skin seemed to glow brighter under the harsh lights. Behind him, a holographic display showed the Valerian fleet insignia. Coalition members, he began, his voice carrying easily through the hall. Recent events have forced us to address a growing concern. Colonel Han Woo-sun sat in the front row with other human officers. His jaw was set in a hard line. Major Kim Sora sat beside him, her pilot wings still prominently displayed on her uniform. The Valerian High Command questions. Earth's continued participation in frontline operations. Catherine continued. Your primitive technology and inferior genetics make you unsuitable for real warfare. Angry murmurs rose from the human section. Several officers started to stand, but Colonel Hahn gestured for them to remain seated. Catherine raised his hand for silence. "We have carried this coalition for too long. While Valerian pilots die fighting the Void Swarm, humans hide behind our protection." He turned toward the human section with obvious contempt. "Your species clings to ancient atmospheric fighters while we pilot ships designed for true space combat. You use crude weapons while we wield energy beyond your understanding. That's enough," Colonel Hahn said, rising from his seat. "No, it is not enough," Catherine replied. "I propose a demonstration, our finest pilots against your best. When we prove our superiority, humans will return to their proper support roles." The hall erupted in noise. Representatives from different species talked rapidly among themselves. The Nexus made clicking sounds that served as their speech. The lumini pulsed with different colors. Their form of communication. Colonel Hahn's voice cut through the chaos. "What exactly are you proposing?" Catherine smiled, showing teeth that looked carved from crystal. "Combat simulation. 3 of our Starfire fighters against any human pilot brave enough to face us. Terms." Hahn asked coldly. "Simple. The losing species accepts reduced status in the coalition. Humans who lose will handle supply duties, food service, and maintenance. Valerians who lose will publicly acknowledge human combat effectiveness. And if we refuse, then Valerian forces withdraw from this sector. Your base falls to the Void Swarm within a week." Ambassador Velter of the Nexus Collective clicked rapidly through the translation device. His words came out as, "This proposal requires formal consideration by all coalition members." "I agree," pulsed Commander Brightstar of the Lumini. "Such changes affect the entire Alliance structure." Catherine waved dismissively. "The proposal stands. You have 24 hours to decide. Choose your pilot carefully. Humans, this demonstration will determine your species' future in the coalition." The Valerian general left the platform, followed by his subordinates. Conversations exploded throughout the hall as different species debated what they had heard. Major Kim Sora stood slowly. Her voice was quiet, but in the acoustics of the hall, everyone heard her clearly. "Colonel, I volunteer." The hall fell silent. All eyes turned to the human pilot who had started this confrontation. In that moment, she carried the hopes and fears of her entire species. Colonel Hahn looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded once. The challenge was accepted. The hangar bay hummed with activity at all hours. Major Kim Sora had not slept properly in 3 days. Every moment was spent preparing for the combat simulation that would decide humanity's future. In the coalition, Lieutenant Sondeho found her in the pilot-ready room, studying star charts of the planned combat zone. His face was grim as he delivered the latest news from across the base. "The betting pools are not looking good for us," he said, sitting down across from her. 73-1 odds against us. "Every species thinks we're finished." Sora looked up from the charts. Dark circles ringed her eyes, but her focus remained sharp. "What about our own people? Most humans are betting on you, but they're putting down small amounts. Nobody wants to lose their pay when the odds are this bad." And the other species, Dayho, shook his head. The Nexus Collective pooled their resources and put everything on the Valerians. The Lumini won't bet at all. They say the outcome is already determined by superior technology. Through the ready room windows, Sora could see her F-22 Raptor in the maintenance bay. The fighter looked small compared to the alien ships around it, but appearances could be deceiving. Master Sergeant O'Hybin emerged from under the fighter's wing, her coverall stained with hydraulic fluid and plasma coolant. She had worked for 60 hours straight, pushing the Raptor beyond its original specifications. "Major, you need to see this," Hybin called out, wiping her hands on a rag. Sora walked over to where the chief mechanic stood beside the fighter. The Raptor gleamed under the hangar lights. New equipment pods hung under its wings. The hull showed fresh welds where additional armor had been installed. "This bird's ready for war," Iben said, patting the fighter's hull with obvious pride. "She's got tricks the Valyrians never dreamed of." She pointed to the new weapon pods. Plasma cannons adapted from captured Void Swarm technology. They'll cut through Valyrian shields like they're made of paper. What about defense? Quantum shielding borrowed from the Lumini. It'll bend energy weapons round the hull instead of absorbing them. And look at this. Hybin opened a panel near the cockpit. Inside, new computer systems blinked with Ilion. Symbols, Artemis' AI system. It learns from combat data in real time. The longer the fight goes, the smarter it gets. Sora ran her hand along the fighter's nose. The metal was warm from the upgrades being installed. How does it handle? Like a dream with teeth. The Valyrians won't know what hit them. Dr. Lim Suyong arrived carrying a data pad thick with intelligence reports. The tactical analysis officer looked exhausted but excited. "I've been studying Valyrian combat footage for 3 days straight," she said. "Their pilots rely on superior technology and brute force. They've never faced truly creative tactics." She activated the data pad, showing 3-dimensional models of Valyrian Starfire fighters. "Look at their attack patterns, always direct approaches. They trust their shields and weapons to overpower opponents. What's their weakness? Predictability. Every engagement follows the same pattern. They form up, charge in formation, and overwhelm with firepower. It works against most enemies, but you're not most enemies." Sora studied the combat data. The Valyrian fighters were fast and heavily armed, but their pilots fought like machines. No improvisation. No unexpected moves. They've never fought in asteroid fields or planetary atmospheres, Dr. Lim continued. All their experience is in open space where their speed advantage matters most. Round the base, word of the challenge had spread across the sector. Ships rivalry, bringing observers from dozens of worlds. The viewing platforms that overlook the combat zone filled with Ilian dignitaries. Lieutenant Park Ji-ho updated. Sora on the growing crowd. Representatives from 47 different species so far. The Galactic Council sent 3 observers. Even the Neutral Confederation is here. All expecting to see humanity humiliated. Most of them, yes, but some are curious. A few species have had their own problems with Valyrian arrogance. Captain Yoon Tae-young from Fleet Intelligence delivered the final briefing in Colonel Han's office. The room was crowded with human officers, all looking tense, win or lose. "This changes everything for our species in the coalition," Tae-young began. "If we lose, humans become second-class members, support roles only. No combat commands, and if we win, asked Colonel Han, unknown territory. No species has ever challenged Valyrian supremacy and succeeded. We'd be the first." Sora sat quietly through most of the briefing. Her mind was already in the cockpit, running through attack scenarios. The technical preparations were complete. Now it came down to skill, luck, and the human ability to adapt under pressure. One more thing, Tae-young added. "Intelligence reports suggest the Valyrians have selected their 3 best pilots. Commander Zetherval has over 200 confirmed kills. His wingmen aren't far behind." "How many kills do you have, Major?" asked Lieutenant Song Mira. 47. "Confirmed against the Void Swarm," Sora replied. "But I've never lost a dogfight." The room fell quiet. Everyone understood the stakes tomorrow. One human pilot would carry the hopes of her entire species into combat. The preparation was over. Now came the test. The asteroid field around Nova Prime's second moon stretched like a graveyard of ancient rocks. Some asteroids were as small as fighters, others as large as battleships. They tumbled slowly through space. Their surface is scarred by millions of years of collisions. Major Kim Sora sat in her F-22's cockpit, running through final system checks. The familiar weight of her helmet felt reassuring outside. The stars looked cold and distant. Her hands moved over the controls with practiced ease, each switch and button as familiar as her own heartbeat. "Combat zone established," announced the flight controller from Fob Titan. "All observers are in position," through her canopy. Sora could see the observation platforms floating at the edge of the asteroid field. Hundreds of alien beings watched from behind protective shields. Some had traveled across the galaxy to witness this moment. 3 Valerian Starfire fighters moved into formation 2,000 meters away. Their hulls shimmered with active energy shields. The fighters looked like silver arrows, sleek and deadly. Each one was twice the size of her F-22 and carried weapons that could destroy a small moon, Artemi. "Is online," "Hi," a system announced. In a calm female voice, "All systems nominal. Combat protocols activated." Commander Zethaval's voice crackled over the communication channel. "Human pilot, you have chosen your death poorly. Surrender now, and we will make it quick." Sora keyed. Her microphone, "Major Kim Sora, ready for engagement. Begin combat simulation," ordered the flight controller. The Valerian fighters spread into attack formation. Their engines flared bright blue as they accelerated toward her position. Sora watched them approach for exactly 3 seconds, then dove hard toward the largest asteroid cluster. Her F-22 dropped like a stone toward the spinning rocks. The Valerians followed, confident in their superior speed and firepower. General Catherine's voice echoed across all frequencies. Human coward runs to hide. He transmitted for all observers to hear. "See how Earth's warriors fight when faced with real opposition." The first Valerian pilot, eager to prove his general's words, pushed his engines to maximum power. He dove after Sora's fighter, energy cannons charging for the killing shot. Sora pulled her fighter into the shadow of a massive asteroid. The rock was 3 kilometers across, its surface covered in metal or that played havoc with sensors. She cut her engines and let momentum carry her on the asteroid's far side. The Valerian pilot followed confidently, expecting to find her cowering behind the rock. Instead, he found empty space. Sora had used the asteroid's gravity well to slingshot round its backside. While the Valerian searched the wrong area, she came up behind him like a hunting shark, her plasma cannons, upgraded with Void Swarm technology, cut through his shields. Like paper, the simulation registered a direct hit. The first Starfire fighter went duck, its pilot eliminated from the exercise. 1 down, Sora reported calmly over the communication channel. Shock silence filled the observation platforms. No one had expected the human pilot to score first blood, let alone so quickly. The remaining 2 Valerian pilots abandoned their arrogant approach. They coordinated their attack, using their superior speed to bracket Sora's position. Energy beams lanced through space, forcing her to dodge between the spinning asteroids. Artemis analyzed their attack pattern. Sora commanded. "Pattern recognized." The AI replied. "They're attempting to drive you into open space where their speed advantage becomes decisive." But Sora had trained in Earth's asteroid belts, where split-second timing meant the difference between life and death. She threaded her fighter between spinning rocks, using their mass to block incoming fire. The Valerians' heavy weapons couldn't track her through the debris field. "They're getting frustrated," Artemis observed. Tactical recommendation: exploit their growing desperation. The second Valerian pilot broke formation, diving alone toward what he thought was an easy target. Sora waited until he committed to his attack run. then executed a maneuver that should have been impossible. A sudden barrel roll brought her guns to bear on the second fighter. The Valyrian pilot never saw the attack coming from what should have been an impossible angle. His fighter took multiple hits and went dark. "Two down," Sora announced. The final Valyrian pilot, Commander Zetherville himself, was desperate now. His carefully planned demonstration was turning into disaster, with both wingmen eliminated. He had to salvage Valyria and pried through direct action. He charged straight at Sora's position, all weapons firing. Energy beams lit up space round her fighter. One blast clipped her wing, sending damage warnings through the cockpit. "Hull breach detected," Artemis reported. "Recommend evasive action." But Sora had one trick left. At the last second, Zetherville's fighter closed for the killing shot. She killed her engines completely. Her F-22 seemed to stop in space. The Valyrian commander, moving at maximum speed, couldn't adjust his course in time. He flashed past her cockpit, so close she could see his shocked expression through his canopy. Sora flipped her fighter inverted and lit up her engines. Zetherville found himself directly in her gun sights with no room to maneuver. Her plasma cannons fired 3 times. All shots found their target. 3 down, she reported. Exercise complete. The communication channels erupted with voices in dozens of languages. The observation platforms buzzed with activity as alien dignitaries tried to process what they had witnessed. "Total engagement time," announced the flight controller, his voice filled with amazement. 11 minutes, 37 seconds. The asteroid field fell completely silent. Major Kim Sora's F-22 Raptor emerged from behind the largest rock cluster, its hull gleaming under the light of Nova Prime's distant sun. Small wisps of vapor trailed from her wing where Commander Zetherville's energy beam had clipped her, but the fighter flew straight and true on the observation platforms. Hundreds of alien beings watched in stunned silence. The Nexus delegates clicked, their mandibles nervously. The Lumini pulsed with colors that indicated confusion and surprise. Even the neutral Confederation representatives leaned forward in their seats. Sora pulled her fighter into a graceful victory roll, the ancient human tradition of celebrating aerial victory. Her engine sang with power as she completed the maneuver directly in front of the viewing platforms. The sound carried clearly through the communication channels. General Kethrin stood frozen at the command observation deck. His pale blue skin had turned a much deeper shade, almost purple with rage and disbelief. His crystalline eyes reflected the light of Sora's engines as she flew past. "This cannot be," he shouted into his communication device. The exercise was invalid. Humans used trickery. Ambassador Felthar of the Nexus Collective rose from her seat. The insectoid being's compound eyes had recorded every moment of the combat simulation. Her translator device converted her rapid clicking into clear words. The combat recordings show clear tactical superiority, she announced to the gathered observers. The human pilot demonstrated exceptional skill using standard combat maneuvers. Commander, bright star of the Lumini pulsed agreement in shades of gold and silver. No violations of engagement rules detected. All weapons and tactics used were within accepted parameters. General Kethrin's rage grew stronger. She hid behind rocks like a coward. Real warriors fight in open space. "The asteroid field was part of the agreed combat zone," replied Ambassador Felthar. "Using terrain advantages shows tactical intelligence, not cowardice." Representatives from dozens of species began talking at once. The observation deck filled with sounds of clicking, pulsing, and electronic translation. Some species seemed impressed by the human victory. Others appeared shocked that the mighty Valyrians had been defeated. Dr. Chen Wyming from the Galactic Council stood slowly. His aged human face showed no emotion as he spoke to the assembly. "The demonstration has concluded according to the agreed terms." Major Kim Sora of Earth has achieved decisive victory against 3 Valerian opponents. The terms of the challenge must be honored. Catherine S. subordinates looked at their general with uncertainty. They had expected an easy victory that would put humans in their proper place instead. They faced public humiliation before representatives of the entire galaxy. Within hours, news of the victory began spreading across the sector. Quantum communication relays carried the story from system to system. The footage of a single effort to defeating 3 advanced Starfire fighters would soon become legendary throughout known space. On Earth, human recruitment centers reported massive increases in applications. Young people who had never considered military service suddenly wanted to become pilots. The image of Major Kim Sora's fighter emerging victorious from the asteroid field inspired an entire generation. Colonel Hong Woo-sung found Sora in Hangar Bay 7, running post-flight checks on her fighter. Master Sergeant Oh Hai-bin worked nearby, examining the damage from Zethavel's lucky hit. The wing could be repaired, but it would need several days in the maintenance bay. The plasma cannon systems performed perfectly. Hai-bin reported, Artemis recorded everything. We can use this data to upgrade the entire fleet. Sora nodded, but her attention was focused on cleaning her cockpit, even after the greatest victory of her career. She followed the same routine she had used since flight. Good pilots maintained their equipment. Colonel Han approached carrying a small box. His expression was serious, but Sora could see pride in his eyes. "Congratulations, Colonel Kim," he said. Opening the box to reveal new rank insignia, Sora looked at the silver eagles that marked a full colonel's rank. The promotion had come faster than she had expected, but she understood the politics involved. Humanity needed heroes, and heroes needed appropriate rank. "Thank you, sir," she replied, accepting the insignia. But this was never about rank. What was it about then? Sora looked out at the other fighters in the hangar bay. Human and alien craft sat side by side, maintained by crews from dozens of different species. The coalition worked because everyone contributed their strengths. "Respect," she said simply. "We are all fighting the same enemy. We need to fight together." 6 months later, Colonel Kim Sora stood on the bridge of the carrier in John, watching her pilots prepare for the largest battle of the war, the first all-human fighter wing had been formed using tactics developed from her victory over the Valerians. "Dragon Squadron ready for launch," reported Lieutenant Park Ji-ho over the communication channel. "Phoenix Squadron standing by," added Captain Shoyuna. "Tiger Squadron ready," confirmed Lieutenant Songmyo. The Void Swarm had massed their entire fleet for one final assault on the coalition's home worlds. Thousands of enemy ships darkened the space round Kepler for to be, but they would face something they had never encountered before. Human pilots fighting with the full support of their alien allies. Sora keyed her microphone. "All wings, this is Dragon Leader. Today, we show the galaxy what humans can do when we fight together. Let's make them proud." The fighters launched into space, carrying the hopes of billions. The galaxy had learned a simple truth that day in the asteroid field. Never underestimate humanity's warriors, regardless of what they looked like or where they came from.